There we
It
go.
says connect to comment.
You should be able to see them. Like, watch. I'll type in hi, and you can see them.
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, and that's how we know. Was that your chicken, your
Yeah,
rooster?
my rooster. Yeah, my my
That's
young boy. That's my
he's saying
youngster.
it's he's see he's saying it's time to go live, brother.
It's time to go live, man. The other day I was the other day I was telling the girls because the hens were in there laying eggs like crazy. All of
Uh-huh.
them were. Bark, 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 bark. They were all making eggs. And my son was like, "What is that, Dad?" And my daughter too. She was like, "I've never heard them doing that." And I'm like, "You want to go see? You want to go see what's happening over there?" They're
Yeah,
like,
when they drop an egg, they make a
"Oh,
little noise.
now we know what's going on over there." But they had never heard it because they don't
Mhm.
spend as much time out here with me as me and the baby do.
There's Pocket EDC.
Todd, what's up, man?
Hey,
Oh yeah, the roosters for sure, bro. My
yeah.
one rooster, that's my big boy. He's a youngster.
Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. River Valley Survival and Bushcraft. Thanks, brother, for dropping in. Maybe you have some good comments for us on prepping. But I'm with JC Mountain Ajar today. A great guest. He's a great guy. He's got a great channel. And I'm going to pass it over to him and let him talk a little bit. JC, just tell us, about your channel, what you like to do, what it's all about, and anything else you want to share before we get into it.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you inviting me over to the channel. It's more than just a little adventure here. It's quite an honor. I appreciate it.
Thank
Um,
you.
I feel like when I started my channel, I kind of grew up with Pocket EDC with Todd over there. So he's probably well versed in kind of like my mission statement on my channel of how I'm using my gear, my knives, my EDC stuff, any activities that I do on the channel, I'm using them to improve my lifestyle, get out of a sedentary lifestyle, get up, move around, have a goal, something to do, something to make me get out of the house, motivate me for whatever reasons. So not only am I collecting and enjoying collecting, but I'm also figuring out, okay, how am I going to use this? Where am I going to put it in my household? And what kind of adventures can I have with the stuff that I create? And eventually my end goal will be is a little bit healthier, a whole lot wiser, and hopefully I don't go broke doing it.
Well, brother, I can't really address that because I got a problem, and my wife will tell you all about it. But hey, Arizona EDC, Chris, how you doing? Stan, glad you're
Damn.
joining us. But yeah,
Yeah, right, Todd.
I think I came across you last year, and like the thing I enjoy about you is you have like like most people have common sense, but you like have a really high level of common sense, and it gives you like a really unique perspective in your videos that really comes through. It's like, wow, why didn't I think of that? And you do a lot of things in your videos that are really smart. Like recently I was talking to you about that video where you just took a bunch of canned goods out and tried them out, out in the field. And that's exactly what's going to happen. If you're caught somewhere, if you have a nuclear power plant that melts down and you can't get home, you can't get into that area, and you're out on the road, I mean, you're likely to be in that situation where all you got to eat is, go in a convenience store and grab a bunch of stuff. And what is it like? I think a lot of people, uh, people in the trades eat like that all the time, but a lot of people don't. And I thought it was just a really unique perspective and smart, in the video that you did. And that's why I like watching your channel. Woo, HT's out here too.
Yeah, looks like we got Chris, Gary, Alexis. Hello, Mike Adams, HT, my man.
What you carrying today, brother?
Oh, I got some cool stuff here. So I got this pouch off of Amazon. And what I like about it is that these two items fit pretty well. So I like to carry an old traditional. So this is a Colonial Stockman. And I've been carrying this one for a good 2 weeks in this little pouch. Right next to this Civivi Yonder. And this Yonder's in Damascus. That's
Cool.
sweet. It's a pretty sweet little one too, man. What I added in the last couple days is Ryan from RH Blade and Shade sent me over some of his slips, and this one slip wasn't fitting one of my knives. So me and him started talking, and we were like, let's come up with an idea. What else can you do but put a knife in a slip, right? So I fit this little knife, this little pen in here. And this little pen is a Kickerland pen. Fits perfect.
That titanium?
Size. No, it's just plastic. Okay. It's all plastic. There's 5 to a box for like $5. So super cool.
Silver on the end.
And then I threw this sharpening stone in there.
That's a good idea.
Good. And today I was with my wife and they're doing some therapy with grandma. We were hanging out. They were doing their own thing. And I was just sitting there just sharpening my old knife.
Yeah.
That worked out pretty cool, man.
I carry a stone in a little go bag that I have that I carry pretty much everywhere I go. But what I have been sporting the past 2 weeks is this Civivi or this Kaiser chili pepper. Had this a while. I really like these, and this is an amazing knife, man. It is so smooth, and I like the design of it. It just look at how it fills your hand. It's lightweight, and I just never carried it, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna carry that for a while, and I'm loving it, right? So I'm a sucker for upswept blades, anyhow, but this thing, it's so smooth. Just watch that thing fall, man.
That's cool.
And then for my traditional, I carried in a little slip. I got that Rough Rider. You've probably seen the video of that, but that's a Rough Rider moose. And actually, it's a jackknife, right? So it's a big 4-inch jackknife, and that's kind of big for a traditional, but it's got a nice pin blade on it. So if I need a smaller blade, I got it on there. But I do the same thing. I like carrying a traditional, but I really love this cigar
pattern.
Cigar pattern. It just feels so good, and this thing, just as good as a trapper, but probably better. It feels better in the hand than a trapper.
I like the cattleman's knife that kind of looks like that Rough Rider. I like how
it's an equal end too. Cattleman, and they're big, right? So they're big knives.
Yeah. Oh, look, HT likes your hat, man. HT's been putting out those buck versus other large knives. Those are good videos, HT.
You know where I got this hat, HT, was my wife won it at the Ellaville Knife Show. She put in for it and won that hat. And yeah, I like it. It's kind of got the mesh there.
Then Mike's got a gentleman's carry, Parker Frost 2, and a lockback, stainless steel with wood inlay. Nice. Heck yeah. I enjoy both worlds coming
Hey,
together.
Dennis, brother, welcome. Arizona EDC. You know
Arizona's
him?
always,
You
yeah,
know him?
he's got some great
Yeah.
EDC carry, man.
Yeah.
When he does
I
his
like.
pocket dump at the beginning of his show,
Mhm.
that's a great way to start. I like that.
I like watching them too. But so that's our carry. Well, what we wanted to talk about today was prepping. What does that mean to you, JC? Prepping.
When I think about it, I think about the time frame in which I'm focusing on when I'm buying that piece of gear. Am I buying this piece of gear for long term or am I buying it for short term? Is it
Okay.
something to help me manage a situation or crisis just within 1 to 3 days? Or am I looking at 1 month to 3 months or even longer? So my mind goes in those two different directions. Am I doing short term or am I doing long term?
Do you remember that movie? Man, it was about those worms in the ground. It was like a B-rated movie, but it's cult classic now. You know what I'm talking about?
Tremors?
Tremors. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when you think about prepping, it's that guy in the
Oh,
concrete house. He's got freaking everything.
him and his wife.
Right there. Stan's just said Tremors. Yeah, and yeah, I'm not that guy, but I do. I got into prepping about 10 years ago, and I was driving a truck. I had plenty of time on my hands. I started thinking about it. I was listening to these podcasts, and I remembered, my grandmother had a pantry that was just top to bottom with food. So, like in my house, I had a little 4-inch recess in the wall. I had like 8 cans in it. We did not have a lot of food when I was growing up, and we didn't have a lot of place to store it, right? But my grandmother, I was always amazed. I used to just walk in that closet and look around. Man, she had the big, those big 5-pound cans of beans and stuff. And I'd ask her and I'd say, why do you have all this food? And she said, well, sometimes there's times when you don't have any food, and it's good to have some around. And it didn't mean anything to me at that time. But as I started think about all this prepping stuff, I remembered it, right? And I remembered, she came from that generation from 1929, the Great Depression.
Right.
So, that's why I started looking into it. And really what convinced me is as I looked into it, I realized how fragile Western civilization is. We are just a heartbeat away from collapsing at any given moment. Our whole system is built upon everybody helping each other. And
Yeah.
if you break that chain, like the electrical grid, if you break the electrical grid, they say within the first 6 months, hundreds of millions of people will die if the United States loses its electrical grid. And if you start thinking about that, it makes sense, right? Because how do you preserve food? Right?
Yeah. Cans,
Right.
containers. Yeah.
Or your refrigerator, right? So if
Yeah. Yeah. Short term.
your average person, if they don't have power to the refrigerator, how are you going to preserve food? Right?
Right.
So that to me is what prepping is all about, is thinking about that. And I think me and you talked about it before. What's that guy we were talking about? Uh, the survival guy. Man, I have a hard time
David.
remembering.
David Canterbury.
David Canterbury, right? So he got me to
Dennis,
realize
Emma.
that there's a difference between uh, an emergency, right? Being able to survive on the trail for a couple weeks till somebody finds you, and survivability.
Hmm.
And so that's what prepping means to me, is survivability, and getting back those things that we've lost, in Western civilization, like how to make a fire, like, what do you eat if there's nothing to eat, you know? And I found that there's a lot of stuff out there. The Native Americans, natives everywhere in the world, have lived hundreds of thousands of years without a refrigerator. Alexa
Absolutely.
says we'll freeze.
Big E, Emma, Chris,
Yeah,
Louie.
man.
So
So
there's
I
good
mean,
people in the house. Good people. Stan.
what is some? You had some really good ideas, right?
Oh, oh yeah.
Uh,
Some of the
like,
stuff that's just growing in our yard type of ideas.
yeah, and like, believe it or not, I love the sock idea. Tell them the sock idea you had.
Yeah. So how many of us lose a sock like once a week? How many times do we have this bin or basket where you just throw in those extra socks that just don't have a match anymore? I've been thinking for several years that in time of crisis, that's going to be a very valuable item. Whether
Absolutely.
whether it matches or it doesn't, or one's small and one's big, people
Absolutely.
are going to want to put socks on their feet. So we just save them in a bag. Not not a large amount do we save, but we save enough that way we can share with people if we need to. But all those extra socks, we'll just keep them in the bag here and storage over here.
So, how I know that's true is talk to any military guy who's been out in the field for a long time, for like a month, and the socks are wearing out. And it's a really important thing. Do you absolutely need them? No. But do they really help out? Yeah. It's one of those things that can make a big difference in your mental attitude. And I just think that's a great idea. And beyond that is just the barter, right?
Yeah.
Is having all kinds of stuff that you could barter to other people. And nowadays we do kind of something like that. When we go to garage sales or yard sales, we kind of barter a little bit. But when the essential services collapse, when your society collapse, that's what it's going to boil down to. And when you go to third world nations, I don't know whether you ever been to one before, but they do a lot of it, right? So even today, when you go to different parts of the world, they do a lot of bartering, for the things that they need. I have this, I'll give it to you. What do you have to give to me? Right? Something
Yeah.
I need. And so having those things as part of prepping, I think, is important. And that's really one of the ways I justified buying all the knives I did to my wife, because I said, hey, I could barter these when civilization collapsed.
Yeah. A big knife, small knife, medium knife, just
Yeah.
something that cuts is what people are going to want. They don't.
Yeah.
That's
So, like, when
not
you
that
pick up
problem.
those dollar bins or $5 bins with a bunch of crappy knives in there, it's good to pick up a bunch of knives and just have them on hand to barter to people. And think about how many times somebody's asked you to use your knife because they don't carry a knife, they don't have one.
Yeah, absolutely. George is in here. Hello, George.
Oh, I
So
got,
me and
hey,
George.
talk,
What's that?
JC, talk. I got to plug my computer in.
Okay. So just this weekend, I picked up my nephew and I took him out to do some prepping. We got a box and he started to put some stuff in there. So we went to a small store. We bought salt. I taught him about making sure that the salt was iodized, and explained to him on what our body needs and how iodine's important for our thyroid. We bought tape And this is pretty funny. We bought tape, we bought salt, we bought flashlights,
Yeah.
we bought a hatchet and a hammer. And when we took that up, the guy told us, "Are you guys planning on kidnapping somebody?"
Yeah.
Because it looked like we were gonna do something weird, right? Like who
Yeah.
just randomly goes up against salt and tape and
Yeah.
weapons? I guess you could use them as weapons, tools for around the house. But
So
we
when
were
you first get into prepping, you got to think about food, um, shelter, and water, right?
right.
Cover those first three first, but like downstairs, I have a lot of salt. So salt's something that lasts for a long time, and it's one of those things that is cheap, and you ought to have a lot of it, right? So
Yeah, I mean, if it comes to it, and you're eating whatever you got to eat, it's gonna be way better with salt. Absolutely.
Dennis is saying buy seeds, and that's something you really got to look at now because a lot of the seeds they're selling seeds that don't germinate. So like the seeds you buy, the plants you can't get seeds from the plant. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Alexa
So
says
you
honey
have to buy. I
is
forget what
gonna
they
last a
call
long
that.
time.
Do you remember what they call that? Old growth seeds or something like that.
I don't remember.
Dennis, do you remember that? Do you remember what those seeds are called? But Stan says alcohol. Well, heck, you can make your own alcohol, Stan.
As a matter of fact, Stan, do you make your own alcohol?
He seems out there, don't he?
Alexis said 22 ammo and the honey. I like the honey. We bought honey yesterday
Yeah.
because that's got a really long shelf life if you get good honey.
Honey really doesn't go bad. Oh, we lost you. Are you there? All right. We have temporarily lost our guests. And what I'm thinking is like the CIA probably cut us off. They're trying to interrupt us from talking about these important subjects. And I'm contacting them now. So what probably happened is his computer probably died, just the same as mine was dying. He's got to plug it in and charge it up. But yeah. So JC was saying, what happened?
I guess I need more streaming practice, man. So I just jumped on my phone, but you guys can still see me, and
Yeah,
I think we'll be all right.
you let your computer die, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't ever bring the computer out here to the workshop, so it was 100% when I brought it out, but it's kind of an old one, so maybe it just drained right away.
I'm gonna show a few books here, JC, real quick.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So one of the things you guys should get a hold of is books like this, Edible Wild Plants. This is for my area, but for your area, you can find a book like that. Canning, freezing, curing, smoking. This is a great book, right? Trapper's Bible. I don't know how many of you trap out there, but that was one of my weak spots. This book right here is kind of like an educational book on mountain men, but it really talks about how they lived, and they lived off the land. And in this book right here, I know it's kind of ripped up, but it says The Lost Ways. You see this on Facebook a lot. It's a fantastic book, right? So this is worth buying. and it has a lot of different sections in this book. Everything from types of foods that you can get, how to cook them, how to pan, how to preserve food, how to smoke food. It talks about law enforcement, how societies just kind of maintain order when it falls apart. And okay,
You'll have to put me back in. Thank you.
okay, so we're still on the phone then, right?
Yeah, I'm good
Okay.
now.
All right. So yeah, like one of the things Todd Pocket EC said, let me put this up.
I have the books, but also download some guides to your phone. Oh yeah.
So let me see if I can do this. I don't know whether I can do this, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to get into some of my apps.
And just like what Todd's saying right there, a lot of people say to take pictures, have digital copies of your driver's license, birth certificate, stuff like that. That way, if you have your important stuff in a safe, that's great. But have a little digital copy as well too. It's not a bad idea.
Okay, I don't know how to do this, but okay, let me see if we can. I don't think it's gonna work. See the U.S. That's an app. It says U.S. Topo Maps, right? And so this is a app from the U.S. Geological Service, right? Who's
Okay.
mapped the whole United States. So you hit this app and punch in an area, and you still can't see. Okay, it's just not going to show it, but it's a topographical map on my phone, right? So
Okay.
these are really good things to download, right? Download an app of your area, of an area you think you would want to go to in a bad situation, and those are things that when the internet go down, you're not going to be able to get, right? And they're good to have. Do you have this Peterson's Medicinal Plant Guide?
I don't. No.
So this is a really cool channel. If you guys have not checked this out, River Valley Survival and Bushcraft. He does some really cool things, old style things, and I really like his channel. And he's a really good guy. Besides that, so you should check him out.
Sounds good. Hello. What is his name? River Valley Survival?
Yeah.
I learned quite a bit of stuff from my wife's. She's native and her family's still practices quite a lot of natural stuff. So I've learned a lot of stuff from them. I've practiced a few things from them as well too, like some of the plants. And actually, since we're kind of talking about the plants and stuff in the books, is my neighbor about half a mile down the road has a bee farm, and we went over to do a tour with her, and she asked us if we would plant white clover in any certain part of our backyard. That way, the bees would have areas to go get pollen from and do their pollination stuff for the honeybee farm. And then once a year, we would just drop in, and she would give us a free jar of honey, just because there was more of that available for the bees, and they would flourish and things would work a lot better. So, getting
Yeah.
to know your neighbors, what they have, and then understanding how the environment works for or against you.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool stuff too, man. So I learned a lot about that white clover, the good stuff that it's good for.
Yeah. This knits and knots you see from Pocket EDC. Have you ever thought about that, JC? The different type of knots and things that you can use in the wild.
Oh yeah, like clove hitch. I practiced that
Yeah,
for like a year.
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think
Truckers
I think
hitch.
that's an area where a lot of us just aren't really
Yeah,
proficient
man.
in,
I love
knots,
those.
but they used to be, right?
And
Years ago, they were, they knew all that.
yeah, real quick, easy pulls. Pull your knot, and it comes off really quick. Versus one that's going to be stuck for a long time.
I had to go in, like I watched videos on knot tying, different knots, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to go in and practice all that stuff. Um, because I didn't know a bunch of different knots, and it really makes a difference, especially like knots. Like if me and you were out in the wild transporting our family, and we had to go down a ravine, and we had to join together two pieces of rope to get everybody down that ravine right safely.
Mm-hmm.
What how would you do that? What knot would you use? And so it's really important to understand all those knots,
Oh yeah,
um,
absolutely.
to do it.
If you're alone, it's super important. If you're with a group, at least one person should know. Hey, Steve, Blade Walker, how are you, man?
I don't know him. Do you know him?
Mm-hmm. Steve from Blade Walker.
I'll have to check him out. That's another thing I like about these live shows, man. You see people you never seen before, and you can go check them out and give them a heads up. If you guys haven't checked out Blade Walker, go ahead and check him out.
Oh yeah, he's got tons of content and just lots of information. And he's a gentleman that likes to uplift other channels as well too. And that's always a good thing when everybody's kind of joining together. And even the subscribers, commenters,
Yeah.
he's pretty good with those people too, and lifting everybody up. Simple first aid pamphlet can be
So
good as well.
right. So Todd's putting up there a really important subject, right? And that's medical. And how do you handle that in a prepper type of situation? So before we talk about that, I'm going to tell you a funny story. And so I'm a career Marine, so I know a lot about emergency first aid, right? Because you pick that up if you're in the military,
Right.
and you have to react to those traumatic situations, and so you have to know a little bit, right? And so when I got into prepping, I thought about, well, what if one of us, my family, get hurt or shot in a confrontation? You're not going to be able to go to the hospital, right? So think about what's happening in California. The hospitals burned down, and in other situations in the world, you may or may not be able to get to a hospital. And so, how do you handle that? So I bought a suture kit, right, with everything you need to do surgery. I got forceps, I got all that stuff that I could do minor surgery on somebody. And my wife came home and she saw that sitting on the counter, that little surgical kit I had. And she said, "What's that?" And I explained it just like I explained to you. I said, "Well, there may come a time when we can't get to a hospital. And so I thought it'd be good to have some stuff on hand where I can handle the situation." She says, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, I might have to do minor surgery on you." And she said right away, she's like, "You're not touching me with that." And I'm like, no, I can do it. Believe me, I can do, minor stuff, and it might save your life. And all she kept saying is, "You are not touching me with that. You're not touching me. You're not touching me with that." And I was like, "Well, you might die." And she goes, "You're not touching me with that." Right. It's so funny. But yeah, what are your thoughts about that? I mean, medical, you're a nurse.
Yeah. So I've been a nurse for 18 years. My first 12 years, something always came home in my pocket. You work
Yeah.
hours a day, couple things are in your pocket from the workday, comes home with you, you put it in a box. After 12 years, you got quite a bit of stuff. And then I looked around on the web, internet, to see what I could buy that you can buy without a license. I mean, without a
Right.
medical pharmaceutical license. And
Right.
I get into that. So this would lead into a topic of what's your skill? My skill is going to be medical. My neighbors is going to be food. My other neighbors is going to be like engineering. So I told myself I should be prepared to protect or to take care of my family and the people that are around me. So I have collected quite a few medical stuff. I also taught basic first aid and first aid for professionals for 20 years. And I learned from my students what equipment was easily understood and applicable, like tourniquets. I could teach
Right.
tourniquets to new people all day long. And at the end of the day, if it came down to it, they wouldn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of tourniquets. I have compression bandages. So I could tell people, here's the wound, put some pressure, hold it, I'll be right back type of stuff.
Right.
So my thoughts go towards what can I prepare myself for in something easy I could teach people to use, less complicated, the better. And I get more of that than any of the other stuff that's more popular, like EDC, man. I see everybody with tourniquets all over, but really if somebody had to put a tourniquet on me, they probably wouldn't know how to do it.
Right. Yeah. So it's important to learn that stuff. You know, not only for other people but yourself, right? So that's how I get that learned from the military, right? Is number one is yourself and your buddy, and Blade Walker said, a tourniquet I believe is a must, and I believe that. So I have like I don't really carry uh, a medical kit. What I carry is a trauma kit. So I
Okay.
have, the wound sealing gauze. I carry a diaphragm, not a diaphragm, a
Like a,
chest sealer, right? Chest sealer and tourniquet, for trauma because that's where most people die is in trauma, right?
yeah, absolutely. Like that. I really appreciated throughout the years learning ABCs: airway, breathing, circulation. And that's where that trauma comes in. Because if you have your equipment to take care of the airway, you're 5 steps ahead of everybody else. And if you know how to use it, you're going to save a life. Compressions, circulatory system. If you can protect that,
Yeah,
Baxter, then again, you're way ahead of the game rather than just calling people or. I mean, I like the fact that nowadays people are less afraid to actually do something. So, just
yeah,
compress only CPR. You don't have to count. You don't have to breathe. You just have to compress. And
yeah,
making it simple has increased everybody's participation way more because they're not afraid. They're just like, okay, I know that I can keep that heart pumping. That's going to be cool. And the next thing is going to be like what you said is getting some education for those higher level traumas. I love that stuff.
yeah. I think it's really important uh, to learn basic first aid, and if you're thinking about, okay, what'll happen if the civilization that I know ends, right?
Mm,
What's going to happen? And one of the most important things I think to learn about is first aid. And the thing about it is nowadays, I mean, you can go to a community college and take basic first aid classes. You can learn all about that stuff. And I think it's really, really important for people to learn. You also have a lot of people with either first responder experience or military experience out there.
yeah.
It's not a guaranteed. You know what I mean? And what if you're isolated to your family and your child really needs medical care, but it ain't going to happen because the grid is shut down and it's just not available. So that's one of the things I think you ought to look into.
I love that concept. And it's back in the day, 15 years ago, you had to go to a course, get hammered with all this material. Your instructor at the end of the day is going to be so mean that you have to learn what you went there to learn, that it's kind of scary to take the test at the end of the class. Now you get online and you take the course in 15 minutes. You may not be like super good at it, and hopefully you kind of refresh yourself throughout the year, but you're going to learn that real basic stuff that's going to save people's lives. 15
Yeah.
minutes, you know, worth a
So
life. Sure.
here's an old school story. In I was raised in Miami, born in 1959. So I'm probably at this time 12 years old, I think. And me and my dad are out in the Everglades. And at that time, I guess you're talking 1964, somewhere around there. And at that time, Florida was not built up like it is now, right? And the Everglades was in the middle of nowhere. And you either had to go back to Miami or you had to go to Naples for medical care. And out in the Everglades, they had all these, they built levees to drain the Everglades. And those levees became roads. And so you could just drive down these levees and fish and hunt and do all kinds of stuff, right? They were wide open. And me and my dad are driving down fishing. We were on a fishing trip. We're driving down the road and we get flagged down by a family. It's a man, a woman, and a child. And the child had a fish hook through his cheek, right? Somehow got his mouth open. Fish hook got in there, went through his cheek. Really no big deal, right? But they were really upset, and he was really upset. And my dad had a suture kit in his tackle box. And so he cut the hook off, pulled the hook out, and then sewed up the guy's cheek, and then poured some iodine on it. That we didn't have antiseptic kind of stuff back then. Yeah. Iodine was the antiseptic. And I think that just points out, how dependent we become on medical care. Everybody just goes, hey, I'll go to the emergency room. But when things fall apart, you may not be able to do that. So it's really good to I never forgot that, by the way, right? So I have suture needles and stuff available that I could help somebody if I needed to help somebody who we couldn't get. If I could get them to the hospital, I'd get them to the hospital. But sometimes you just can't do it, and so it's good to have that stuff available.
Absolutely. Not this Christmas, but last Christmas, I gave all my nephews those bandanas. One of the bandanas was all the tracks or footprints of animals. So for out, you can identify the animal.
That's a good idea.
The other bandana I gave them had first aid stuff on it.
Yeah.
I love to think, what can I give somebody that's going to have several different uses? Of course, you could do lots of things. You could use it as a tourniquet. You could filter with it. You can read the instructions on it, like it had the pictures and the directions. But I love to give away stuff that has several different purposes or uses.
And I remember, I used to go on deployment in the Marine Corps. One of the places I went to was 29 Palms, and I guess this deployment was in the early 80s, sometimes, maybe 82. We were out at 29 Palms, tent city, working, in a desert environment. That was the whole idea. And I'm out there walking around and I found a sidewinder, right? So, I grew up in South Florida, a lot of snakes. One of the things I learned to do was eat them. And
Woo.
so I grabbed this sidewinder, and the guys were like, "What are you going to do with that?" I'm like, "I'm going to eat it." And they're like, "You're crazy." Right? So all kinds of different guys from all over the United States. I'm like, "No, you don't understand. It's like eating steak, right? The snake meat is really clean and really good." And they were just amazed, that I took this poisonous snake, cut its head off, skinned it, and I cooked that thing and ate it. And I gave them some and said, check it out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think today in our society we miss is a lot of things that would be natural to a lot of people are not natural anymore. And little simple things like that, how to survive in a wild environment. For one thing, you got to do what you got to do, right? So
Yeah. Oh yeah. They have like a time frame, right, Todd? They have like 3 days, people will be okay. 7 days, people will turn on each other. 15 to 30 days, people are killing each other and doing stuff like that, eating each other.
yeah.
See,
So
so
I don't think it'll be a couple weeks, but what's going to happen in the first week is all the grocery stores are going to be cleaned out. And after people go through that, so the average person, me and you talked about this, has a week worth of food in their house. So after that first week, people are going to start getting hungry. The first thing they're going to do is run down the block to a neighbor and take his food, right? That's
yeah,
what you're going to see is incursions in neighborhoods, uh, people trying to steal other people's food. And then within 30 days, yeah, in 30 days, people can start eating people.
yeah, that's wild, man. It's wild.
Just look at the riots. We had isolated riots, right? Imagine that wide scale across the country where you have an interruption of services across the country, not just like Hurricane Helene, right, or the LA fires, but all over the country where you have an interruption. And it'll get bad quick. People are brutal, and you have to be able to protect yourself and your family and others.
Absolutely. Yep. Depending on the weather too, that's gonna make the time frame even faster, quicker. If people are cold, they're gonna go after staying warm and getting food faster from their neighbors. It's gonna
Yeah,
happen fast. I
I think you gotta think about it, right? You gotta start thinking about it. And we actually live in a really blessed time of abundance, and we live in a country that has a lot of resources. That's not true all over the world. And a lot of the world, they struggle every day. I visited Belize a few years ago, and these kids, I was out fishing on a dock. These kids came by, and we were talking, and they said, if we don't catch food, we don't eat tonight. That's what they were eating,
mm,
right? So these kids, if if they didn't get food off that dock or from a tourist or something, they weren't eating. And I heard that from a lot of people. And you tend to forget that, but in a lot of places in the world, in India, China, Indonesia, South America, a lot of places in the world where a meal tonight is not guaranteed.
I like what Stan is saying right there. Stan's saying, physical fitness. Before this show ends, I definitely wanted to bring up something like that where I'm kind of farther out of the city. I live in the country, so I have like my own little world here. I can do so many things. I can have animals, I can have a well, I can have a pump for my water, so I could probably survive and take care of my family for quite a while before things get really bad. And of course, like Alexis was saying, ammunition, weapons, I can protect my family pretty well. But I think for those people who are kind of like maybe in an apartment or maybe living with a family member at the time, where they think that maybe prepping is not accessible to them, but it
Right.
is, because we could prepare by looking at our own selves and say, what are my limitations? If I
Right.
have to my car to my house, am I going to get there, or am I going to die of an asthma attack before I get there? Just even knowing yourself and your limitations is going to be very important for being prepared. Like 2 years ago, I wanted to lose weight, so I joined a boxing club, and I was using the cardio to help myself lose weight. And I found out that I had anaphylactic exercise induced urticaria. It sounds funny, but really, I'm allergic to exercise. And I'm not lying. The acid that my muscles were releasing, because my muscles were working hard, it was releasing acid into my bloodstream, and my body was getting allergic to the high amount of acid in my bloodstream. So I got hives, I was itching, my throat closed up. So now I know that as I start to exercise, if I really had to, what I do is I carry Benadryl, ibuprofen,
Yeah.
Pepsi in a small little jar in every vehicle that I have. If I have to
Yeah.
run, I'm gonna get sick, but I know that I have something to combat that once I get myself stable or whatever, So, I mean, open sores on your body, if you got dry skin, start moisturizing it. That way, there's no areas for infection to happen if you're without being able to take a bath for a week or something, like those are things that a person has control over now that they can be preventing or preparing for in the future. So everybody has the opportunity to participate in being
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah. I think you just need to think about it. There's a lot to think about too. It's really never ending. But I think me and you talked about it before that for most people, the best thing is to stay in place, right? So most of your resources are in your house. The friends around you, the people around you can help. You can have a community guard type situation going on where everybody takes part in guarding everybody else, and that's really the best situation. If you live in a big city, you may be in trouble. But if you live in a small community and maybe the house is the best place, not only because of a situation like yours, but that's where all your resources are in your house. And so remaining in place is probably the best thing for most people.
I like that idea. That's a good way to look at it.
I,
And
I
like,
mean, otherwise you're going to have to go out half prepared, right? If you're going to leave your house.
yeah,
And so, I don't, I'm 65. I have a hard time walking down the street anymore. So, those 20-mile hikes and 4 hours, they're not a reality for me anymore. My best option is to remain here, and so, I that's why I live in a fortified castle, right?
yeah, there you go. And I've like you brought up David Canterbury a little bit earlier, who's talked about um, the rules of three, right? The rules of
Yeah.
3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter. Well, that's shelter right there, staying in place. If you stay in place, you're going to be
Yeah.
better being somewhere where you don't have shelter. 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food.
I think you need to think about life after civilization, right? Is in a grid down situation where normal services are not going to be available to you, and some of the things when you think we talked about this before, like if you have damage to your roof, how are you going to fix that? Are you going to sit there in a house that's leaking rain, for a week? Or do you have some tarps you could put over your house to prevent that leak, right? Do you have things that you could use when there's no electricity, like auger bits, right? Hand drills, hand saws, a hammer, things like that, chisels, things that you may need to repair your house when there's no electricity, and that is so likely it's unbelievable. A huge gamma ray burst from our sun or another solar system can happen at any time and just totally wipe out the electrical grid. And, just a few simple things that you can do, to allow you to be able to survive okay when other people aren't going to.
That's a good point. And so many people in our community are very interested in antiquing. And one of the thoughts that I have about antiquing is, hey, I'm not only going to buy something that's cool, old, US made,
Yeah.
but it doesn't require the use of electricity. It's
Yeah.
going to be it's going to be
I
some
mean,
way to
axes,
hire something to
yeah,
start a fire in.
axes and wedges, so simple to make wood. Cut a tree down, you have some wedges, you have some axes, you've got wood, but if you're not prepared for that, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to repair the house that you have. And who knows, what will happen. I mean, look at what happens in these cities, um, yeah, trucks running into homes, fires, crowds, just all kinds of things. And I think you need to be, having rope on hand, simple things, that'll help you survive a grid down situation. Really important. But you
Dennis
got to think about it.
Dennis Whipple right there, man. Don't wait. Don't wait till it happens.
Yeah.
Start now.
Yeah. You got to start, thinking now. All right. I'm about ready to wrap it up. How about you?
Yeah, it was excellent. I appreciate you having me on and everybody that came out here today. It's always so much fun to be with you guys. And thank you for your time because I know it's Sunday and I know there's other things going on out there and you chose to be with us. So, I just can't say thank you enough. But it's been a very, very great conversation and I look forward to doing it again.
And if you haven't checked out JC Mountain of Jar, check him out. He's got a really enjoyable channel, I'll tell you.
Thank you.
And a lot of really thoughtful things. He does a lot of really thoughtful things that you may not have thought about. Very common sense, down to earth, good person. Has a lot of good ideas. I really enjoy watching the show. And I hope you guys, will check him out, subscribe to him. And you guys go ahead and say goodbye because we're going to be logging off here in a minute.
Yeah, Radar came in here. Hey, Radar.
Hey, Radar's everywhere. He's like the greatest supporter of channels.
That's cool, man. It was good to meet you, River Valley Survival. Good to meet you, sir. Louis, thank you. Dennis and Todd and Stan. RDS, Bobby. RDS Wood Turning and Acrylics, Bobby. All these guys got some great channels.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Okay, guys, we're going to shut it down. And thank you so much. I'm going to do, I don't know, one of the shows tomorrow. I'm not sure which one. I'm going to be doing a giveaway. Check it out. It's just like for the guys who watch I'm not going to promote it a lot, but probably the next video I do, I'm going to do a little giveaway. And I hope you guys check that out. And I hope you guys, definitely check out JC. He's got a fantastic channel. And thanks so much for being on, JC.
You're welcome. You guys have a good day. Take care.
All right. Bye. in stream. Okay. We're out.